Hi guys, I'm Kelsey from Main Street Sign Knights over here at MB Graphics. And if you're watching this, it's because you bought one of our DIY home kits. So I'm going to talk you through what to do with all the cool stuff in your kit. All right, so really quick, we're just going to start out with what you've got. So you've got your board, which is very important. Your kit's going to come in a bag that looks like this. Main Street Sign Knight, that's us. Everything you need is going to be in here, right? The kit includes, this is your mask, or stencil, however you want to refer to it, but this is what you're going to be using. So we've got a mask, good. Your kit also includes some blue painter's tape. It's going to include a palette plate and a selection of primary colors. So you've got red, yellow, blue. You've got white, black, and then of course we also included what I have labeled touch up. So it is the same as your background board in case, occasionally you have a little oops, it happens. Your kit also will include some sponges and a tiny touch-up brush. Now, before we get too far into anything, there are a couple things that you are going to need from home, and there are a variety of options. So I'm sure everybody has at least one of these things around. You're definitely going to need scissors. Good. And then for later on, you are going to either need a old bank card, a expired grocery store club card, old hotel key passes, library card, anything like that will be fine. It's just got to be kind of rigid. You don't want to flex too much, but something sort of like this. Library cards are good. Also, you will need something sort of small and pointy. So, toothpick, a nail, if you're really desperate but really into dental hygiene. You can also use one of these tooth-picking floss things. Anything that's got kind of a tip on it like that, it's going to be really helpful. Alright, so, now that we've got all our materials, got everything laid out, good to go, let's start with how we get our stencil onto the board. Alright, so we got our board, got our lovely stencil. You're going to want to orient it, string at the top, set that up, make sure it sits where you like it. I'm going to take some of the blue painter's tape that we've included, take a piece, and you're just going to put it right down the middle. Okay, so make sure that the tape is secure at the top and the bottom, and we're going to create a little hinge. Should be enough where you can run two pieces, top to bottom, just like that. And then you're going to take a little piece, just about that big, nothing super. Just going to stick that gently right there for just a minute. So first thing you're going to do, you're going to take your stencil or your mask, and you're going to come to the edge, and it's going to be a bit like a sticker, and you're going to peel off the backing. So you're going to get that. So this light blue color is the backing. This is what you need, the sticky bit. I'm going to peel very slowly. There's no need to rush. We all have a little bit of extra time on our hands. We have nowhere to go. There's no need to rush through this. Just gonna gently keep peeling it back, All right, so until we've hit the hinge. So here we are. We've got half like this. You're going to take your little blue piece of tape that we cut earlier. Set this here. Use that tape to hold this down. Then, you're going to take your backing, so you need to get rid of it. Scissors. And you're going to cut right along that hinge line. Just like that. This is trash. Don't need the tape anymore. Now, You're gonna take this, you're gonna take whatever squeegee you've selected, library card, bank card, expired AAA card, whatever you got. So you've got your hinge, here's your sticky bit. You're gonna take your library card, your debit card, whatever you're using, it's your squeegee. You're gonna start at the center, you're gonna press, you're gonna work from the center outward. So the trick is to try and make sure that you don't get a lot of air bubbles underneath your shapes. You're really gonna just pull from the middle out, middle out, in all directions. Always from the middle out, always. Okay, so we're gonna work that down. Down, good, go, like it, it's on there, it's nice and stuck on now. Take your blue painter's tape up, you'll no longer need this, you're all done with that. Now we're going to pull out the other half, but we don't need the hinge anymore because this piece will hold it in place. So, peel. It's a little tricky to get the corner started. There we go. Again, don't rush. There's nowhere to be. We're going to take our time. We're just going to peel the backing away. There we go. Chuck that. Squeegee. Center. Outward. Alright. Squeegee the other half of our stencil on. Good. There we go. Good. I think we're on the board there. Good. Now, we're going to take the mask off of the stencil. So, there's going to be this little, so there's literally a big piece of masking tape over our stencil. So you're just going to roll it back on itself. You do not want to pull, but fold down and roll it back. You may have to use your hip or something to press against so you can get a good pull on it, or hold with one hand and pull with the other. Whatever feels most comfortable for you. Just as long as you keep it folded back on itself. Sometimes, occasionally, you get a place where your stencil starts to lift a little bit. If you notice that it's coming up with the mask, it's okay. Just go back. Turn so you can see. Go back with your squeegee and just press it down a little bit and just work it back onto the board. All right. Mask. Trash. So, this is what we've got so far. We've got something nice and shiny. We've got our stencil on. Just gonna go back because I know this spot peeled up a little bit when I was taking the mask off, so I'm just gonna kind of really work it back down onto the board, make sure it's on there. All right, so that was the hardest part. Everything from this point forward is mostly creative. Got paints. I'm gonna clear away some of this other stuff. So, your kit comes with the 3 primary colors. You get black and white. Touch-ups are for later, so we'll set that aside. And then you've got sponges. The #1 rule for painting with the stencils, and I cannot say this enough, is less is more. And when I say that, what I mean is you've got this tiny little cup with even a tinier amount of paint in it. So we're just going to take our sponge, I'm just going to take a little bit, I'm just going to dip it in the cup. I'm thinking blue. We're just going to go with straight blue. I'm not going to mix any colors for this today. Take your palette, and you're literally going to smear it on the palette a little bit. Alright? We're going to sponge it. Try not to brush, but rather up and down. It'll just apply the paint more evenly and prevent it from getting under the edges. one of the things to remember is you can always go back and add more paint, but if you add too much, you cannot take it away again. So it's better to start with a little bit less and go back over more than once until you get your desired opacity, than to end up with too much. And if you have to ask, is this too much paint? The answer is probably yes. What I like to try and remind people is that you want to be able to see the stencil through the paint. So I can still see the lines of my stencil even though there's paint on it. If you can't see the lines of your stencil, you definitely have too much paint on the board. So we're just going to keep sponging. Some more blue. And the reason you want to try and keep the paint really light is because if you have too much on there, when it dries, when we go to peel the stencil away, what's going to end up happening is the stencil is going to take the paint with it. And either you won't be able to get the stencil up at all, which is a bummer, or it'll come up, but it'll take a lot of your paint off with it and it won't come out crisp. And the result is usually just not that good looking. So less is more. Less is always more. And I have an example of what too much looks like, just, you know, because sometimes it's easier to see it. All right. Thank you on there. So an example, too much paint on a stencil. This is way too much paint for this stencil. Way, way, way too much. I can barely see the lines. It's clumpy. It's very thick. You can see that it's actually raised up off this. When I go to peel it, it's going to get very messy and it's going to get some bleed. And you just don't want to do that. So, less is always more. And again, one of the things that's included with the kit is your touch-up brush. So if you really aren't happy with like how translucent your paint looks, you can always go back in after you've peeled up your mask and brush in. It's entirely up to you. I finished the thank you. I'm gonna throw some red on while I'm doing this. So a little bit, just a little. I'm gonna wipe it off on the palette a little bit. All right. And while we are here doing this, if for some reason you feel like your sponge is no longer usable, you drop it, the dog eats it, whatever, you can always use kitchen sponge. You cut it up, you can leave it as it is, doesn't matter. This is always a good alternative. It'll have a different pattern, but still usable. All right, so once you're done with your paint, normally I would say let this dry before you go peeling anything up, but again, in the interest of time, so you're going to take a corner of your mask, it doesn't matter which corner, lefty, righty, whatever. I'm just going to peel. Don't worry about destroying it, because it's trash anyway. So, just peel. Alright. It's the majority of the mask. Trash. Now, this is currently what we're looking at. The last part, this is where you need a toothpick. Just going to go in, and you're going to find these little spots in the centers of the letters, and peel them out. For the thank you sign, there should only be 4 of them. So not too many to chase down. There. And that's it. Thanks for joining us and thanks for watching. I hope you guys have fun. And if you have any questions, you can always direct message or email us at We Are Main Street Sign Night on Instagram, Direct message is usually the best way to get in touch. Or you can email us at Mark's email, which is mark.beaupre@gmail.com. And thanks for joining. I hope you guys have a good time.